Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. Hang out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy is dead.
And today we're going to recap and discuss the first session of the second campaign for Critical Role.
Spoilers! Jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
Guys, we finally did it. We finally watched Critical Role, and we have a whole full episode under our belts now.
Woohoo! 3.5 hours or 3 hours and 35 minutes, whatever it boils down to. You finally have pressured us into watching, and now that we've got this perfect position, a whole new campaign started, just released.
It seemed like a good jumping on point for us.
Absolutely.
So it's just going to have spoilers, guys. So if you haven't watched the episode yet and you don't want spoilers, you should probably go somewhere else now. Watch a different Nerdarchy video or go watch it and then come back and watch.
Pause this, go spend 3.5 hours watching Critical Role,
and then
come back and watch.
Yeah.
If you care about spoilers.
Exactly. I must say I was a little disappointed because I've been listening since we started to Nerdarchy about Matt Mercer as a DM, and the Critical Role hype, man, was unbelievable. And while I enjoyed it and I find Matt to be an excellent GM, I'm just going to say no one could live up to the god that it's been built up, when it comes to GMing out there.
Personally, I would have loved to have been in his seat because he got to sit back and get entertained by 7 awesome players. That was the way I saw like the first 2 hours.
Yeah. So I guess we'll do a bit of a breakdown. It was cool the way they did everything. The beginning part of the session compared to the latter part of the session, you could really tell where Matt's material was prepared and where he was ad-libbing and he was improvising. All in all, the session was a lot of fun. The players were a blast. I like the different stuff they did with the overlays.
I loved that setup because you had there were essentially 4 different cameras going, and having actually been lucky enough to visit Geek and Sundry, you can see that they've got the crew and the components to be able to pull that off.
A studio. They have a studio with full production. Yeah.
So you have the one camera angled at the group of 4, and the other camera angled at the group of 3, and they're clearly sitting, at a table
around the table,
because you can see the one time like somebody reaches off camera this way and the camera
they're like high-fiving or something
and the hand goes over that way. I'm like, well, that's clearly a thing. Every person at the table has this little overlay in front of them, and as the game goes on, that winds up changing.
Yeah, they reveal information when first it's the character's name gets put down.
Well, first it's the player's name that's there, and at one point in time it flashes to like their Twitter handle or Instagram thing or whatever they're at, is, and like this way you could choose to follow them because they all have things outside of this game. And then on top of that, as the character or the game progresses, like things become question marks, and this person gets revealed as this is just Caleb. Oh, and then the bottom is question marks. So it's like, we don't know what race and we don't know what class this person is yet. And it was really fun to see that transition throughout the whole game, to be able to figure out by the end of the session who everybody is. It was really cool that when combat actually started, it actually put this person has so many hit points and they've taken so much damage. So
when one of the characters near death, like begins flashing red.
When I think they had 3 hit points left, and it's like sitting there, pulsing with that red light, and I'm like,
we won't actually say which one. We'll leave that one for you guys to find out. Yeah, so that part was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. The production value was really good. So I guess we'll get into the session a little bit, some of our commentary, our opinions on things. I must say, I definitely differ from Matt in the style of getting the party together. That's definitely, and I've done that style before. We used to do that all the time. It's funny they ironically started in a tavern.
Well, I don't have as much problem with the cheesy. It starts in a tavern.
I don't mind either.
That's not that big a deal. I did like how that unveiling happened and everyone got to really describe themselves and say what's going on. And, you had this person was a blue tiefling and this person was a purple tiefling. And it's like, oh, well, that's kind of cool.
Well, it depends on which part you're talking about. Like, so it took a while to actually get the party together. Everyone started in 2s or 3s, essentially.
Yes.
And so there was like little scenes that would happen with the groups, and then before they all came together, and that took a while to get them all together.
We watched it on Project Alpha, and it's like 33 minutes of like art and music and
that's just the preamble to get people there to watch before it starts.
I'm not saying it's a problem, but like literally, like you could jump straight through, and then it was an hour in, so really like 27 to 30 minutes before the party was assembled.
Fully assembled. Yeah, I feel like they weren't a party yet. Okay. They were together, but they weren't a party yet.
Okay, so
for more than an hour.
At an hour, that was when like the last 2 people were talking to, and there was some conversations, but like those last 2 people to join, they had a brief conversation and then they left, and it continued with that other 5.
So Sam and Liam, they started off together and they kicked things off, and Sam was playing Nott.
Yes.
And Nott is a goblin girl.
He is a female goblin rogue.
Yeah. The word girl was used often, so I don't know, if he just referred to herself as being a girl or if she was actually a young goblin. Not entirely sure yet. We're still early in the series. And then Caleb was a dirty, smelly human that we later find out is a wizard.
Yeah.
Those 2 are together. And then we have Jester the Tiefling, played by Laura Bailey. We also have the monk, which was Beauregard, by Beau, I believe human monk, played by Marisha Ray. And then we had
Travis Willingham, who was playing Fjord, the half-orc warlock.
Yeah, so that was another group. And then, this third group was...
You've got Ashley Johnson playing Yasha, the Aasimar Barbarian. Taliesin Jaffe. And he was playing Mollymauk, the Tiefling Bloodhunter.
So, guys, we are getting acquainted with the cast of Critical Role, and we've even met some of them. To be honest with you, I've met Matt on several occasions now, and been able to talk to him, but we have not religiously followed Critical Role. We've been great admirers of what they do and what they do for the hobby.
I've watched the GM tips with Matt Mercer. I've been fortunate enough to shake his hand and get the few minutes actually talking to him. But beyond that, like it takes a lot of time to get invested in a game. And by the time...
And they had like 10 seasons or something.
By the time Critical Role like really was on my radar, it was like, all right, can I really dive in now? And I've watched a little bit here and there, but not enough to really be invested as other critters are that are out there.
Yeah, so it's exciting to be able to start, at a beginning point and with new characters and everything, and get to know the cast.
So, feedback, takeaways, like what kind of things like did you really enjoy in the session?
I felt like Laura Bailey just like totally stole the show the whole time. She was so funny, and like she stayed in character so well throughout. I mean, she came out a couple times, but for the most part, she was nearly almost always in character.
I'm
like, does she really have a Russian accent?
I have to agree. I thought she was my favorite character for that first episode. I felt that I don't know whether she came up with the game with the help of somebody else or whether that was like gotten from somewhere.
I feel like it's one of Matt's games.
Okay.
Because he was like fed the name, and she kind of, but she remembered the rules, and I think I seen it somewhere else, but I think that was actually from Matt. So that was cool because she was like a gambler.
Okay, I thought I had written it down somewhere. It was like Quick Queen's Quip or something along those lines, and like right off the bat, she's sitting there trying to swindle the goblin out of some money.
Yeah, she's going to teach the goblin how to play.
And like
blades were drawn, things happened, and speaking of which, Nott was the second favorite character for me.
Okay.
And it was funny too when Sam is like, "Yep, I'm going to be doing this voice for the next 2 years," because it's definitely he's like talking kind of like a little girl like voice, so he's a little bit higher pitched, and I could definitely see that one being a strain.
I definitely enjoyed Nott's performance. I'm not certain whether he would want. She. I'm not certain what to use in this particular situation.
Shim.
But that character was definitely a shining star. But I think
the character is she. If you're referring to Sam, it is he.
Okay, so Sam's performance was awesome as Nott. But I mean, I think that Beau put on a good performance as well. I thought Fjord and the whole obsession with falchions.
I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to enjoy Marisha's rendition of Beau throughout the season or if she's going to be annoying to me, because she's totally playing Beauregard as like kind of like a bro type character is the vibe that I'm getting, and sometimes it's funny but sometimes it's annoying. The voice is annoying.
I enjoyed it. There wound up being an actual an NPC by the name of Beau.
Yes.
So that wound up being amusing, and then at the end they're like being grilled by the town guard, and it's like, oh, I'm Beau, like that guy, and she happened to point to Travis sitting next to her.
Yeah, to Fjord.
So he's like, oh yeah, I'm Beau too.
Yeah.
So there was just so many like just literal laugh out loud moments. It was a good time.
Most of the session was really just the players interacting with each other, and one of my takeaways too is you could definitely see where Matt was improving, like, which was for the first 2/3 of the game, it seemed like. Then when he really, really came alive and really shone was in the last third.
When they actually got to the carnival.
When they got to the carnival, and that seemed like this was like the bulk of his really prepared material, and that stuff was on point. And like,
he's like, he was describing the performances that were happening, and they were very, very visual, very, very
vivid.
Evocative. You could even say as you were getting into it. And I'm like, God, this is good stuff.
Yeah, and you could just see how skilled he was too at like referring to notes. Like there was very little eye movement as far as looking down at the notes, or his head didn't really go down at all. I found that pretty. Yeah, I found that pretty impressive. I mean, granted, it's kind of what he does for a living is probably do lines, so
right.
So it probably speaks to his strength.
So like the game actually they pulled out. In the beginning, like new sponsors for the show, D&D Beyond is coming on, and they got to reference that throughout, and literally some of the players were accessing their characters via D&D Beyond and making the necessary changes as things happened right then and there.
As I will be doing this evening when we play. And also, too, they unveiled the Blood Hunter is actually on D&D Beyond, too. That is the first third-party, not Wizards of the Coast, that isn't homebrew that is on there. So that's interesting to see where that goes as well.
Yeah, that's actually really cool. And that's a very RPG related company, so seeing that not a big surprise. But then their second sponsor, which is Backblaze, was kind of interesting, and their commercials were pretty darn funny.
It was basically a cloud service, so they did that. And then who wrote the commercial? Was it Sam?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Sam had wrote the commercial for it. Did it? He's like, but I wrote it back around Christmas, and I haven't changed it since. So
limericks, poem, whatever you want to call it. Utterly hysterical.
Well, he did The Night Before Christmas.
Yeah.
But reflavored or whatever.
So
a spoof on that.
Just watching that is totally worth it.
And the intro that they done the trial, you guys have probably all seen that. That was pretty well done and funny, and the clothes they're wearing are ridiculous. So
glasses.
So that was funny. At the very end, Matt Mercer gives Shapeways a shout out for his golden
snitch D20.
D20. Yeah, we're friends with those Shapeways people, so that's awesome.
Now I'm gonna have to go research that because you guys know me and dice.
I have the one die for them. It's sitting on my desk at home, and it's like the hollowed out metal D20. And then Ted is probably like, why can't I have that in my collection? I don't even really want it. I just don't want Ted to have it.
They also had Wormwood. They made that beautiful table that they were playing at.
Yes.
And they did a pan over of that to show the inset logo of Critical Role on it.
And it's all like different woods and everything, so that was really cool.
I didn't go into the detail of, this part was made with this and this part was made with that.
You can and watch it if you want to know.
But absolutely, a spectacular table to be able to game at.
My takeaways are like Matt Mercer's a really good DM, and he has a great group of players to play with. They're a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. The story was enjoyable. I even got my wife to sit down and watch it with me.
And she sat for the whole thing?
She watched the whole thing with me. We discussed our favorite characters afterwards. So that was all good. And like the biggest takeaway I kind of really got was like Matt Mercer's just a dude. Like after I got past all the hype and I started watching, I'm like, he's just a dude, and he's just running the game. He runs it well, but he's just a dude. And he's like the kind of dude you want to hang out with.
Oh, absolutely.
Have a beer with, play D&D with.
I greatly enjoyed the whole thing. I think the cast of characters being able to come up with these characters and these voices, and for the most part, stay in character for the session. It was just greatly enjoyable. As you said, that there wasn't a lot going on for the game. There was a lot of antics, in the inn. There was stuff that I think was definitely like behind the curtain stuff. So like characters' backgrounds were taken into, hey, what happened yesterday was important for these characters because it affected what was going on in the actual game, even though this was just session 1.
There was foreshadowing. They're second level characters, right? They're level 2.
I would guess they're third based on the hit points that I was saying.
No, it actually showed it at some point, level 2.
Okay.
So they're all level 2. They also had really high stats.
They did it as that.
It's like 10 to 18 was the stat spread, pretty much. There was no subpar stats, and they definitely had, each of them had like 3 exceptional stats, I believe. So there was that.
I know at one point in time the stats, were scrawled across the screen.
Yeah, that's where I got the level 2 from.
I didn't see that part, but I think somebody had like 33 hit points, so like that's what led me to believe they were third level.
There were 2 characters, but one of them is the Barbarian. Most of them had like 18 hit points. So maybe they did max hit points.
That's spot.
Max hit points with exceptional stats. I don't know. Have to math it up. But I thought they were second level. Maybe I'm wrong and they're third. So there's that. So I guess the only thing that I didn't like or is like different from my style is like I kind of brought up earlier is how long it took to get the party together. And I don't do that anymore in my games just because it makes sense from a story standpoint, but I just hate the idea of other players sitting around and watching people play. So I want everyone together as soon as possible.
With a normal, at your table game, I can understand definitely wanting that, but
they're all getting paid to sit there, so what's the difference?
as performers, they're technically being entertained just as much as us sitting there watching. So I don't think it's as bad, but as a performance art, you need that story to make a lot of sense. So getting the characters together over the course of that first session,
I felt that getting the characters together was kind of weak though. Like for the story element part of it, it was kind of like. So the setup is like you have this group together and they're getting paid for a gig they did. And their connection to the other group is them watching them get paid and taking interest in them getting paid.
Well, that's because Nott was seriously interested in the money. And I really applaud Sam, going into... he went into his character sheet, but I could imagine not actually pulling out a book and be like, oh, we could have run this plan, or we could run this plan, or we could run this, and I'm like, that's genius. I've never seen a rogue actually say we could do these jobs on them. Glorious.
Yeah, by jobs, what Ted really means is he had a list of different scenario scams that him and his partner would run, and they're like, oh, they got money, we can run this on them, which is great, which is awesome from the player standpoint. But other than that, there was no real connection between those groups other than happenstance, same table. Now let's just get together. It was very hand wavy, and he had good players that just wanted to play the game.
Now it's very possible that we don't know what the character conception is. So if we know, or if Matt knows that that's Caleb and Nott's deal, they're thieves, they're money grubbing characters, then the fact of putting money on the table is going to guarantee that those characters' interests. That's all he needs to do as a GM.
That doesn't mean they become friends. It was very weird and hand-wavy. And then the other group came in from representatives of the Carnival. This one actually made a little bit more sense, but they came in and they handed out flyers. And, this is the Carnival. Come check out the show, which makes a little bit of sense. And this is a dangerous plot hook from a GM standpoint, in the sense that these characters do not get together if the players don't go to the Carnival. And granted, it's also a show. These elements speak to it's a show as well as a game, and that's why I don't like to do those in my game. So I'm analyzing it both as a show and as the game. There was very little connectivity between the three groups, and that part I felt like could have been a little bit stronger. It would have been better off to come up with a reason just to start them all together.
Absolutely. If you come in, you guys know each other. Let's roll with the ongoing story. That is fine. It's great for all the players, and you can just move. I think there is an element for the production angle, for the show angle of, well, there's 7 of these characters. Really, they already know each other. Getting them together becomes something that's fun. You would miss out on those interactions between Nott and Jester, which were hysterical.
I agree. The point you seem to be missing is the connection was weak. Like, yes, I understand the idea that you want to have each of them kind of introduce their characters and have their own little thing going on, but then you need something a little bit stronger to put them together, and like the happenstance of we're just all happen to be in the same place, and now we're going to go do the thing together, logically does not make a lot of sense from a storytelling point of view. You wouldn't read a novel written like that or see a TV show written like that. There would be something deeper to hook them all in and get them to interact with each other and go down that road together.
Well, sometimes it is those simple moments that fall into or boulder roll into a bigger story. I'm not going to argue that you feel it's weak. I felt a story or a situation was put out there and the characters leapt on it. Now, maybe the actual players themselves know, well, that's a player character versus the other guy at the other side of the tavern isn't. And it's my job to interact with and form some kind of bond. I don't know what they were actually thinking. I was entertained by what was there from a viewer standpoint. From a GM standpoint, yes, more could have been done based on the information that's provided, but I don't know motivations and backgrounds on the actual characters that were there.
True. But, I feel like as a GM, I'm always like armchair quarterbacking anyway, right? And you're right. It wasn't entertaining. And that was like one small thing in the whole show that, like, if there was anything I was going to throw any shade on, it's like just that one spot. And it was still entertaining because Matt had awesome players to work with. So it just makes it work.
Absolutely. So what do you guys think out there? Are you into Critical Role? Now that we're following along, does that mean you're going to jump on the bandwagon as well? Put your thoughts, put your feelings, put your comments down below while you're down there. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
You can follow us over on Facebook.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.